All right, welcome back to Inventory Watch for the week ending of November 11th, 2023. This is where we go over all of the housing inventory for both homes for sale and the rental market here in the Phoenix Metro. My name is Amy Garish, and why don't we just jump right into it? Let's see. I'm going to go into presentation mode so that we can see. And as usual, I'm going to shrink my head. Awesome. Okay, so why don't we start talking about active inventory here in the Phoenix Metro? We did see another slight increase moving up from last week. We are now up over 16,000 homes in active inventory on the market here in the Phoenix Metro. And we are seeing, let's see, the average list price still around $790,000, kind of holding on around that price. And we did see some more increases and some price changing around the valley. So we are seeing price reductions still kind of creeping up. And let's kind of take a look at new listings. As usual, we do see, not a whole lot of new listings coming to the market again, but we did see inventory increase, which is still telling us that demand is still on the low end as far as buyers are concerned in our market. And so we can see here, I think I talked about this last week, that inventory kind of peaked out here in these couple weeks in October. So it is normal for us to see lack of listings coming to the market until the new year. So I think we'll see less listings coming to the market in November and December. And I think the real test of of our market is, will we continue to see inventory rise even though we're getting less and less listings on the market? If that's the case, that just shows how strong the weakness in the buyer demand really is, because I don't think we ever really see that. The number of sold homes did drop dramatically going into the second week of 2023 here for November, so week ending November 11th. We did see this, but I want to say that before we all freak out and say, oh my God, buyer demand just totally dropped again. This is normal. This is seasonality for our market. So if we go back and look, I kind of documented it here, that last year, this same week in 2022, we only had 887 sold homes. So this is normal for the seasonality for this week, but we are down, if we're going to compare year over year, about 4% in sold homes compared to last year. Our last 30 days sold price is $593,000. So we're still kind of holding around this mark. I'm not seeing a lot of, we are seeing a lot of price reductions in the market, but we're not seeing a lot it show up in the closings yet. At least in the market as a whole. I am going to share some individual markets so we can see how the cities around the valley are doing today. Pending and contingents. So not surprisingly, we did see interest rates drop from 8% back down to 7.5%. And so we have been seeing over the past few weeks the interest rates kind of falling back to below 8%. So that did spur some people to go out and put some things under contract. They might have been kind of on the fence, and that might have been, the drop in interest rates was probably the deciding factor of, I better do it now before rates go back up. That could have been that FOMO kind of playing out in the market. So we did see pendings actually increase 6% week over week. How we end the month will be very telling. Again, I'm interested in seeing will active inventory continue to rise through this low demand market, and seeing what the drop in interest rates, seeing this little spike in buyer demand is actually quite interesting to me, and how this will play out towards the end of the year. So will they continue to pull back mortgage rates and help people have a merrier Christmas? I don't know. So I'm kind of interested in watching that. The other thing that we talked about last week was that I was bringing in the pending ratio. So the pending ratio tells us the divergence between, like, we have this many homes on the market and we have buyer demand is low and we have listings kind of rising. So the bigger that divergence gets, the lower our pending ratio will get. And so as you can see, our pending ratio went from 38 to actually 30, a whole point in 1 week, because of this surge in pending contracts. So the higher that the pending ratio gets, the more the market will be in a seller's favor. So the fact that the selling ratio did grow, that puts, we are, and I keep saying this, like, we are like at this level where it's like any ticket, anything will give like one or the other a little bit of control, right? So just a little bit more. Higher interest rates will put the buyers in control, less interest rates will put the sellers in control. And it's like, we're on this like weird line right now of like who owns the market. So it's very, frictionated right now. So, so pending ratio up 1 full percent in just a week. So interested in seeing like where that puts us next week. Our total pendings are at 6,327 as of today. When I checked this, so we had 6,000 homes pending on the market for sale. And last week we had 59. So we went up almost 400 pendings in just a week. So very, very interesting stuff happening here. And will this remain going in through the end of the year with the holidays coming and things like that? Will the drop in interest rates continue to kind of rally this along? If you find this information valuable, anything I just shared with you about the pending ratio, please hit that like button and tell the algorithms that this is valuable content. Subscribe, tell my channels. That would be amazing. I love doing this for you guys, and I appreciate you guys watching. So as promised, I did say that I was going to go into some individual markets and what I'm seeing out there as far as which markets are faring better and which ones are kind of slipping. And on the screen here, I do have the top 5 markets that have where prices have slipped the most. What's interesting is that Carefree is actually one of the luxury markets that we're starting to see prices slip. It seems that Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, and Cave Creek have, for the most part, really, really did have held their values better than Carefree. That kind of tells me either Carefree was like overpriced to begin with, or the demand there is just like different than it is in, say, Paradise Valley and Scottsdale, because it is a little bit farther out. And you can see, like, in here, as far as the markets go, all of these are on the fringes of the valley. So we say like Carefree is like far North Valley. We have Litchfield Park and El Mirage, which is far West Valley on both the north and the south side. And then we have Santan Valley and Maricopa, also very much on the fringes, kind of away from the major metro in the bedroom communities. So this is not surprising to me at all. This happens when affordability strikes. There are less people are willing to drive farther out. When problems with affordability strikes, people are less inclined to drive further out. So they start to kind of detract towards the cities and be closer to their jobs, because gas is more expensive, food's more expensive, things like that. And then the quality of life, like they're willing to trade that time sitting in traffic for the larger house. So looking at Litchfield Park is down. Well, let's finish Carefree. Carefree prices are down. The average price in Carefree is down 14% year over year. So $1.46 million is the average price right now. Litchfield Park is down 11.7%. So it's almost a 12% drop in Litchfield Park. And Litchfield Park averages right now $553,000 for that West Valley home. El Mirage is sitting almost at a 10% drop, and the average price in El Mirage is $353,000, and not too far behind is Santan Valley at 9.5% decrease in prices, with their average price being $434,000, and Maricopa bringing up the rear at 9.25%. So most all of these markets around a 10% drop. for the fringe markets around the valley is what we're seeing. So if you don't have a commute, you're still working at home and you're looking for a deal, these would be the areas where I would consider, like, hey, start looking around here. There's probably some negotiating room happening in these markets, especially if we take a look real fast, like at the sold score. Let me see if I have it up here. If we look at the sold score in some of these markets, we can tell that, let's see, we can see a little bit like what's happening in these markets. So if we look at, for example, the sold score in Santan Valley, 85143, we can see that the sold score is under 50 here, which means that, you know, there's definitely room for negotiation. Your home is more likely to sell when your sold score is over 50. And so when we're under 44, it means that the buyers can have some control here where they can negotiate and ask for closing costs, or maybe even put an offer in lower than what's expected, right? And we're seeing that by the price drops in Santan Valley, where Santan Valley is like got almost a 10% price drop. So so the sold score for Santan Valley is definitely looking like that. Let's see, El Mirage, I think that zip code is 85335, if I believe. And that's at 54%. So it's right there on the edge of like, still of probably coming down out of that hot sellers market, which is why we're starting to see price reductions in El Mirage. And then I don't know if I remember 85138 maybe might be Maricopa. Yeah, sold score in Maricopa right now is a 27. That is quite low. And so if you're looking for a deal, I would say like this is the one where you could take advantage of some deals. So those are the top 5 markets where prices has slipped the most. Let's talk about the markets where values are holding. If I can go back into presentation mode, we will get there. So these are the top 5. Let's see. Okay, so where prices are holding right now. Not surprised. I was surprised that Carefree was one of the top where prices have slipped, because Paradise Valley has had actually a price increase of 11% over the past year, and like year over year. So I'm actually like still kind of blown away that Paradise Valley is doing so well, and that it's like seeing price increases. Paradise Valley is one of those neighborhoods where, you know, there's cash flying around, so they're not as sensitive to the interest rates like a more like average neighborhood is, right? Where most people are getting mortgages on their home. And so that's probably why we're seeing that in Paradise Valley. And that's probably why we're seeing the values in Scottsdale hold as well, because they're not as reliant upon some of these really high interest rate, because they have more cash. So Scottsdale really didn't see like much of an increase or decrease. I would say Scottsdale's holding flat year over year at about 1.4 million for their average price. Phoenix also, I would say like Phoenix is also kind of holding flat, even though it says like down 0.01, like 0.1%. That's not even a full percent. It's like 0.1% that Phoenix is slightly down. And so Phoenix has also been holding its value. And again, like I said, like people tend, and it's probably because of the supply factor versus the demand, whereas like short supply in Phoenix and people not wanting to live that far out, you know, with their time, you know, in Santa Valley and Litchfield Park and Maricopa and all that kind of stuff, people tend to migrate closer to their jobs so that they get some semblance of quality of life. If they have to pay high housing, they're willing to do that during like right now, because it's just easier for them to get to work, right? If they're going to make concessions on their lifestyle, they're willing to kind of pay a little bit more so that they don't have to sit in traffic. And so I'm pretty sure that's what we're seeing. That again, that was one of the major driving factors like last time, during the Great Recession, when we saw Santan Valley's housing, Maricopa housing, all, like West Side, Surprise, El Mirage, all of those housing markets deflated first, because it just got too expensive. Like people were like, why would I live out there for $500,000 when I can live in Phoenix for $500,000 and be closer to my job? And so like the size of the houses were what drew those people out there, that they could have like larger homes and better quality of life. Well, like that's not the case anymore, because those larger homes are now really much more expensive. So Anthem, again, 0.3% so like not a huge decrease coming from Anthem. Peoria probably has the biggest one with two full percentage points dropping. But so these are the markets that have been holding their value the best over this past year. Let's talk about the rental market now that we kind of know like which housing markets, like if you're a homeowner in these markets, those are the top markets around the valley right now. Let's go into the rental market, because the rental market, again, I think it's very interesting looking at what's going on in the rental market. We've seen about 30 new listings. Total active inventory is increased by 30 listings since last week. Not a lot of movement happening in the rental market either. And again, we are around the holidays. Inventory might be a little boring over the next few weeks, but like it is what it is. I think the biggest thing to remember is that January is going to tell us our story. How we enter January 2024 will probably set the stage for how the market's going to be going into for the rest of the year. New rental listings, as you can see, like pretty low again this week. And so the fact that we had low rentals again this week and inventory still went up by 30 listings, it's still very, very telling on how low rental demand is as well. Renters are not in the market as much as the buyers were. Like buyers saw a 6% increase. But let's see, sold inventory. So we'll go into how many renters were actually in the market. Let's talk about sold inventory first, though. We did see that sold inventory did drop compared to, that still says week 1. So week 2, we're in week 2 of November. If we compare rental inventory to week 2 in October, you can see like, wow, that looks like it dropped. Actually, it really didn't, because last year, the same week, we had 372 sold, and we were actually up about 5 listings that were sold like under contract and rented out. So not doing so bad year over year for the same week comparison, but this is, again, our normal slowdown. Going into November, we're going to see this drop because nobody wants to move around the holidays. We did see the average sold price again fall for rentals. So the average rental price in week 2 of October was $23.54. And now we are down to $22.39. So rents are still kind of falling as predicted, because we saw the pending prices kind of go down as well. But let's talk about pendings. We did see a little bit increase in pendings this week compared to last week. The pending ratio for rentals are interesting. And the reason why it's so low is because we have a lot of Airbnb type rentals in our market. And so calculating this pending ratio probably isn't going to have the same effect as calculating the pending ratio for the for sale market, because you don't have like people like buying a house for a week. Like you do have Airbnb, like somebody will rent their house for the week. And so the rental ratio is a little bit wonky because of that. But you can see we did have an influx of renters, putting things under contract out this week. We had 336 renters running around the valley looking to put rents under contract. So that is something that we did see an increase in rents. But again, it's still very, very low at 336 renters for the week. That's pretty much all I got for you guys today. I think the other thing I wanted to show you again was that having January tell the story, right? So if we look at under contracts of where we ended the year last year, we ended, and this is not for rentals. I'm back in the regular housing market, the for sale market, where we can see that, demand as far as like how many were under contract. We can see that in October, we were at just about 6,000, and then it ticked down here in November, and it ticked down again in October, and it opened. I don't quite know what this number is, but it's probably like 76-ish hundred. So we opened January 2023, and I'll go grab this number because now I'm curious on what we're going to open January 2024 with it. Are we going to beat 7,600? You can see that demand was like just abysmal in 2023, and if that continues, this abysmal demand, I think for 2024 that we will see inventory continue to rise, and we will see, we got to hit that ratio though. It's all about that pending ratio. Went up again to 39% and still giving that tick up to the sellers. So if that pending ratio just does not budge, it's gonna be another market where like prices aren't gonna fall. So if you've been on the fence, like waiting for prices to fall, it hasn't happened just because we are in such lack of inventory state. And I don't at the moment, I keep like looking at like, okay, what are the institutional investors doing? If rents keep coming down, are they going to give us some inventory again? Are they going to flood the market with some of their rental properties? Or is anybody in distress? And those are the signals that I look for, like credit card usage is high. Are people going to start selling their houses? Are we going to see more inventory coming to 2024? If we do, and we still have this abysmal demand like we saw in 2023, that will definitely affect prices. But as of right now, I keep watching it. I have my finger on the pulse, but I'm not seeing it just yet. That pending ratio will be the one to watch. How we open January 2024 will be the one to watch. So thank you so much for Inventory Watch. I will see you guys next week, and we'll see how it goes.